You've likely heard the term California exodus, but it may not mean what you think it does. We're going to break down exactly what this means for the population here in California and if it can be an indication for other densely populated areas and states. Since the beginning of the pandemic, headlines have told us that people are leaving California in masses. 1 out of every 100 people, to be more precise.
California is 12% of the country, right? And I think people forget just how big the state is in comparison to the rest of the country.
The state's massive population is one reason this exodus seemed so problematic. Another was financial worry.
It's the 4th largest economy in the world.
The executive director of the California Policy Lab, Evan White, tells us their research shows differently.
Initially, the concern was that high net worth individuals were moving out of California and that was going to drain the tax coffers in the state. Our research shows that that probably isn't the case, that people from wealthier zip codes are just as likely to move out of the state as people from non-wealthy zip codes.
He points out the numbers that surrounded this exodus were specifically about exiting, not people entering the state.
People are actually moving less, but of those who move, the proportion of those leaving California has gone up a bit.
Patterns like this are what Irene Blomrad, a professor of sociology at UC Berkeley, has been studying for years.
I am a researcher of migration, which is both a professional passion but also a personal one, as I have migrated multiple times in my life.
She says this decline in population brings more opportunities than alarm bells to more densely populated cities. If there is any worry, it's farther away from metropolitan hubs.
If anything, the places that are really hurting by the exodus are the more rural parts of the state, the rural counties where when people leave, it's harder to keep schools functioning, it's harder to keep healthcare centers functioning.
Other states like New York, Illinois, and Louisiana have also seen declines, but they are not indicators that other states should expect a similar trajectory. If anything, White says, they will be experiencing the opposite, an influx in the population.
And we do plan on doing future research that looks at the question of where people are going.
For larger cities like San Francisco, who felt the decline in population, the real question is if fewer people is a negative thing.
Housing costs in the state, you could make the argument that it might not be the end of the world that some people are leaving, because that might actually help make a little bit more of an equilibrium for our housing costs.
Blomrad says if there ends up being any negative outcomes to the decline, there are solutions to combat it.
There's this difference between the metaphor of like what population loss or the exodus means in terms of the California dream and sort of the reality on the ground of what's actually going on. One of the interesting things about California is that a lot of its population growth in the last 30, 40, 50 years has been due to international migration in addition to domestic migration. But that international migration has actually slowed down over the last little while.
Expanding immigration, she explains, can have lasting economic effects. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says foreign-born residents are much more likely to be working than those born in the U.S. Jesse Cohen, Scripps News, Berkeley.